Good morning, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Before I even start, I do want to say if you like what you're watching, please hit the like button, please subscribe. We appreciate your patronage. So today we are on a job that looks like we're in a dungeon, and quite honestly it feels like it. We're in the basement of a college, and this floor had glue down carpet and VCT tile on it. As you can tell behind me, it's not in great shape. So I'm going to show you close up what we have and what we're going to do to try to fix this. Okay, so this is a green glue that was used to glue down, I want to say carpet squares. I don't know if they were squares or not that it really matters. But there's joints under here, which you couldn't tell were here before. So we're probably going to have to cut these joints open, fill them with a polyurea joint filler. Here's our vacuum system, here's our grinder, our cord runs right upstairs. We're in the city, so we're parked in an alley there, which was a whole other issue we had to deal with. Parking is never easy in the city. This was in the middle of everything, so we're going to have to contend with patching this thing. And so here's the extent of the green glue. And we get into a ramp with green glue. And then we come up to this upper level. This had VCT tile on it, and this has black glue. So this black glue here is very heavy. We're going to have to grind all this off, obviously, and prep it, and we're going to do a broadcast floor system on this. This is actually a college we have worked for before, and we posted a video before. So we're doing the exact same floor in a different area. This is about 2,000 square feet. So we're going to get started now. I'm going to do my best to video what I can here. There's a lot of work that has to be done in a short time. So the issue at hand here is we basically have an 8-hour window that we're allowed to park out front. They have the whole front of the building blocked off so we can park there. So we need to get this done in time, get the equipment loaded, get the trailer out of here, and then we can work out of the pickup trucks when we do the coatings. Obviously I can't work out of pickup trucks when we're dealing with these big grinders and stuff. So we're gonna get at it, and I'll video what I can. All right, so I just wanted to show you the grind close up here. This is grinding really aggressively, and the heavy dust is laying on the floor, but it is grinding that green glue right off the floor. We kind of have a sacrificial set of diamonds on here, and what's going to happen is we're going to burn through them much quicker than normal, just until we get this thing dialed in. And we knew that was definitely a potential. So we're going to grind a little bit more. We're going to change these diamonds out, and then I'll show you what we put on instead. Okay, so we're switching these diamonds out. We had the 40 grit extra soft bond diamond, and I always tell people you have to choose the right diamond or else they burn out really quickly. So we tried it just to see what would happen. And we burned it out on, I don't know, 200 square feet of floor. We only had like 30% left. And now we're going to a medium bond diamond. So we actually went down 2 steps. So this is the 40 grit. It's actually a SACE red diamond, a medium bond diamond. So we're going to try that, and we'll see what happens there. So now we're grinding again, and now we're grinding at a slower pace, but it's much more controllable. It's nice when it really tears the floor apart, but the problem is you can't control it well, and you don't want to do too aggressive of a grind. So we're going to finish grinding with the 800, and we're going to get set up to start doing the edges here shortly. So I just want to show a close-up of the edging that we do. This is with the Hilti DG 150 6-inch grinder. It's a great dustless grinder. It's very expensive, but it works really good. We use this on virtually every job. Here's a close-up of Jared grinding, and he's getting all the epoxy off about 1/2 inch from the wall. That's all you can get. Now Jeff's on the HTC 800 again, and you can see now it's a much more controlled grind. We're not leaving that real heavy dust like we were leaving when we first started with the softer bond diamond. So it's much more controllable this way. It does take a little bit longer, but it's a much more desirable finish when we're done. At least you're not tearing the floor apart too aggressively. So Jeff and I switch running the grinder. We only have one grinder down here just because it's so hard to get the equipment downstairs. So we're just taking turns at this point. So I'm grinding the remainder of the green glue, and Jared is finishing the edges and also going around some repairs that we can't run the heavy grinder over because it's going to tear the floor up. Okay, so now we move back up to that upper level now with the black glue. Now Jeff is running the grinder now, and this is where it's really important to know your grinder and know the material you're trying to grind. So black glue is petroleum based, so there's oil in this stuff, so you got to grind it really aggressively. So we're grinding, and if you kind of look at the dust trail here, there's not much of a dust trail. I'd prefer to grind a little more aggressively to get this oil off and get a better scratch on the floor, because we're putting a coating on this and you surely need to have a good scratch for the coating to bite to. Jared is finishing up the edges with the hand grinder. That's the remainder of the green glue, and that can be a challenge to grind by hand also. It tends to want to bite the grinding wheel and stall the grinder out while you grind. This is everything he had edged prior, but you can see how clean the edges are and see how clean the floor is. There's still some dust on there, which we're going to vacuum, obviously, when we're done and after we do some of the repairs. So this is where we decide to change out the diamonds. We had the 40 grit red diamonds on there, and since we're on this petroleum-based product, it's like black tar on the floor. That's exactly what it is. We wanted to do a more aggressive diamond, so what we're doing is putting on a blue, which is a softer bond diamond, a blue 25 grit. So this should grind the floor better. And there's a trick to grinding this glue also. If you can't get your diamonds to cut really well, take some play sand or finer sand if you have it and throw it on the black glue first. If you mix that in with it, it will tend to dry the glue up when you grind it, so it comes off easier on your first pass. So Jeff's loading up the 25 grit blue diamonds, and we're going to get at this again. Okay, so now we're back at it with the 25 grit blue diamonds. It takes a little while sometimes for these diamonds to open up. It's not an instant thing. So you got to grind a little bit, see what kind of pattern you're getting, see what kind of dust you're getting. And you see there is some dust there in front of the grinder. The dust trail we're getting is definitely much more aggressive than we had before, which is just so important when you're grinding black glue this heavy. You got to get all the glue off, get down to clean concrete, and leave a scratch for your epoxy to bond to. There you can see the dust trail. It's much more than we had before, for sure. So we continue grinding with the 800, and Jared starts doing the edges with the Hilti. We have to empty the dust, and we get everything ground. So now we have our repairs. This floor is pretty ugly, so we used our repair material that we use on every job. That's the CFS 343. What we did is the joints weren't even real joints. They're artificial joints just tooled in there. So we filled everything with epoxy. We filled the repairs with the CFS 343 also. And what we're going to do is come in with the hand grinder and lightly grind over all the repairs just to feather them in, because it's important that you have a scratch on top of that repair so your epoxy bonds to it. So this is some of the repairs that we dealt with throughout the whole floor. We'll grind them out quick and then get our coating down yet today. So I did just want to show a close-up of the surface. You can see a scratch in the floor there. Jeff is doing the final vacuuming now. There's just a film of dust from the grinder. There was no airborne dust, by the way, throughout this whole project. There were open computer terminals there, and there's no dust on anything. So we try to keep everything very clean by using that Blast Track 654 vacuum system, which has just worked fantastic for us. Again, another close-up of the surface. You can see the exposed aggregate because of how hard we ground to get that glue off of there. And here's our equipment we're using to put the epoxy down. Here's our 18-inch roller. Okay, so now we're getting ready to put down the prime coat. It's about, it's 10 after 4 on our first day on the job. So we got everything ground. This is the area that had the black glue, which is oil-based. So we switched to that 25 grit to get a more aggressive grind to combat the fact that there's oil penetrated into the surface. So there's some patching that was previously done. That's a cement base, probably Ardex. So we're getting ready to put the prime coat down now. I'll put this on time lapse. So I pour the epoxy out about every 5 foot. I do a stripe across the floor. I squeegee it out, and Jeff will always roll perpendicular to the way I squeegee, so you get a good consistent floor. So we had to move the camera down to the lower level here just because it was in our way, but we work our way across this whole floor and get it primed. Okay folks, this is a tough one to video just because this is such an odd shaped wound and we're working back on ourselves. I hope that wasn't the elevator I just heard. Anyway, this is the area we just primed here. Jeff is back on the last little bit. We have the elevator blocked off, which is right in the middle of the doorway. If somebody comes walking around the corner, we have a big problem on our hands. Also means they ripped down 2 layers of caution tape. So anyway, this is the primer. You can actually see the scratches, I think you can see that, from the grinder through the primer there. You can tell the primer's real patchy, then it gets back rolled, and then it kind of levels off a little bit, evens out. That's what we have. Just going to finish this up, and we are done for the day. And also, I just want to point out lots of these little micro cracks in here. These are all going to get filled in tomorrow on the next coat. This primer penetrated in there. It's going to lock all that together. And we'll be back tomorrow for day 2. Okay, folks, we're back. This is day number 2. First thing in the morning, we're walking on spikes here just so we don't track any residue or anything on the floor. So this is just the prime coat. You can see there's still some micro cracks and stuff that you see, and all that stuff is going to be filled with our next coat. So you're looking at the CFS 707 LVP. The next coat we're putting down is the CFS 707. And we're going to put the flakes on that today also. So here's an area here. The primer soaked in, which is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So I'm going to put this camera on the tripod and put it on time lapse. And you can watch us apply this next coat. So you apply the CFS 707 the same way as the primer. This material is a little thicker, so you don't get quite the yield out of it. We're running about 180 square feet per gallon. I pour it out, squeegee it out. Jeff rolls perpendicular to me. So we're going to work our way across the floor with the CFS 707. And then I'm going to get ready to start flaking here shortly. Unfortunately, I really can't video the flaking part of this because there's nowhere to set the camera because all the epoxy's wet on the floor. Alright, so I'm just about done flaking. I'm walking around on spiked shoes. So this is what we have here. So what I always do when I flake is I go over the whole floor. I try to coat it as consistently as possible, and then when I know I have enough flake, I come back out and throw it down heavier and heavier and heavier, so it's all consistent. You never want to run out of flake, so that's the only way to do it to make sure you're going to have enough to cover the whole floor. So I'm going to come out one more time, yeah, but this is what we have so far. The lighting is not great down here. I'm not going to walk up this ramp. That ramp is deadly with wet epoxy. I'll slide down there and leave claw marks from my spikes. Okay folks, we are back now, day number 3. We are just getting ready to start putting our first clear coat on here. So what we're going to be putting on is a 100% solids clear epoxy, just to kind of bind all this together, and that works great as a top coat, but we're also putting a urethane top coat on tomorrow, which is our CFS 356. So this is the floor before the clear top coat. Pretty darn consistent. I mean, of course you can always pick out a couple areas that might be slightly off, but it looks pretty consistent. So again, this was a custom blend they chose, which I had mixed up for them. So this is it. I'll put this camera on a tripod. You can watch us put down the clear coat. Now this system is a really strong system, and normally this clear coat is what we would apply in a garage or any commercial environment. But since they're going to have desks and chairs in here, chairs dragging on the floor can sometimes scratch this. So we're going to be putting that urethane on tomorrow. But we apply the CFS 137 MUV, squeegee it out across the floor, and Jeff rolls perpendicular to what I do, like we do every other floor. All right, just want to give a little close-up of rolling the 137 MUV. Jeff's doing this ramp now. And you can see there's some slight texture in this. Again, this is indoor. We're not putting any aluminum oxide on this. They don't want any non-skid texture. They need it easy to clean. I'm gonna put this back on the tripod. So we pour the material out, squeegee it. There's a lot of edges on this job, which take a lot of time going around everything with the detail required to, make it look consistent. Okay, we're back. This is day number 4. We are getting ready to do our urethane top coat on this. So I'll flip this camera and show you what we have. We're going to be wearing respirators today, and for the previous 3 coats we did not wear respirators because there's relatively no fumes from the 3 epoxy coats we did. The urethane is wicked, I have to admit that, so we have our full respirators. I'll flip this around, I'll show you what we have. Okay, so this is the finished floor, and in most cases this is the finished floor. We're doing a urethane top coat on this, and the reason why is because they're going to be putting chairs on this, and when you slide a chair on clear epoxy, it can scratch depending what's going on with it. So we're just going to do this urethane top coat to match the other floor we did. That was a previous video last year around the same time. So I'm going to put this on a tripod. You can watch us roll this out. We'll have our respirators on, and here we go. So this is what they call a dip and roll product. We dip the roller in it and roll it out on the floor because the solvents flash out of it so quickly. So we put this clear coat on and we're done, and this is the end of the video. I can't walk out there because the floor is going to be wet when we're done. But thank you all for watching and tuning in. If you like what you're watching, please hit the like button and please subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.